Hello and welcome to another drawing demonstration. Today we're going to focus on drawing the cylinder. And right now I have my support ready to go, border taped with the blue painter's tape, charcoal paper, a cushioning buffer, piece of smooth paper between your drawing surface and the drawing board. So I'm going to charge this up like I had done with previous demonstrations using vine charcoal. We're going to get it to a 40 to 50% black, and we'll continue from there. Okay, so what we have is the toned paper, and I got it a little bit lighter than 40 or 50%. It's probably like a 35% or a 30%, give or take. And you know, that's okay. You can have a variation of your background darkness. And well, let's talk about this. We're going to draw a cylinder, and the cylinder consists of circles. If you look at a cylinder from the top down, you'll see a circle. And when you tilt it and look at it from an angle, and you'll start recognizing how the circle distorts into what's called an ellipse. Now, there is a difference between an ellipse and a circle in perspective, and so I don't want to divulge in drawing circles in perspective for this lesson. Right now we're just going to deal with drawing the cylinder. What I have here are some shapes. Upper left, this is like the common way the learner is drawing the ellipse, and unfortunately it's not correct. You have a point here that shouldn't be there, and over here it kind of comes to a point. Kind of looks like an eye. This I see a lot with our drawings, so that I would avoid. Sometimes I see something like this where the top and the bottom part of the ellipse kind of rubs up against an invisible line like that, and it just kind of, it almost looks like a lozenge, you know, a lozenge more than an ellipse. So I would probably avoid that. This is what you want right here. Now there's two things I think that the beginner should do. One is just to do this. You just sort of like, I'm going to make a line like this and a line like that, and then I'm going to go like this. So I made 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Now I'm just going to practice drawing an ellipse inside these, like that. So I just did it really fast. So what happens is you kind of train your hand. Another way to do that is doing this. And you just kind of go like this. Notice how I'm using my whole arm. And this one's kind of off. Now when you sketch, you can do what's called feathering. And so this is what is feathering. You see how I'm doing that? I'm building up my line, and it goes like that. It's called feathering. So I'm practicing with the right materials. Remember we talked about this at a previous demonstration when I did the cube, using charcoal like this, and the charcoal in my hand being a piece of vine charcoal. So we have that. Now let's look at the anatomy per se of the ellipse. Again, we're not drawing circles in perspective. We're just drawing the ellipse, and that's all you need for right now. I recommend you practice this like this. Now what I did was I made a series of of marks like this. See that? And they represent what touches the sides of this box. Nothing else should touch the sides of the box. And so now I can sort of like connect them. This might be a little off. Remember the quick way you can measure? If you go like this, and you can go like that. Just make sure you don't move your hand while you're doing that. Your fingers, rather. Don't make sure you don't move your fingers, rather, when you're doing that. Don't pinch the air. I'm pinching your head. I'm pinching your head. Okay, a little humor, a little levity goes a long way. Who knows what I'm talking about when I say I'm pinching your head, I'm pinching your head. Look it up, find out what that is, and get back to me. Okay, so there is pretty much the first part you should look into before drawing your cylinder. What I recommend doing is turning your board like this, where you get what's called a portrait format. You have either portrait or landscape, and so this is a portrait, and if you had it widthwise like that, that's considered a landscape format. And because we're really not interested in the background, we will shade the background like we did for the cube, but mainly we're gonna just struggle with the form itself. So what I did was I made some guidelines, or also construction lines, and I just made this flat shape of a rectangle, and then I divided it up again to a rectangle and another rectangle, and they're the same size. See that? Like that and like that, they're the same. And this is supposed to be the central axis line, and then I made these little marks here, like that and like that. And this is supposed to be the same height as that, same size. If it's a ½ inch here, it's a ½ inch there. For whatever this is, it's the same here as it is there, and so on. Make sure your lines are straight. And again, we're not doing perspective. Okay, so I'm gonna actually do this in real time, so you actually can see the process at this point. Some nice music in the background. That's a real cello. I have a friend and a roommate who plays a cello, so he's practicing. So we have some nice musical accompaniment. The trick is to make this side a mirror reflection of that side. This is a little off right here, you see that? I'm going to be honest with you, it's a little bit off. But this one's not. So what do we do about that? Real time, I'll show you. Just sort of fix the area that you need to fix, like that. Relax, and then bring this down like this. And then you can check it off. See how you're doing a quicker mechanism of measuring? And the more you do this, the faster you get. Okay, so I recommend also standing back. Sometimes you're as far back as arm's length. Other times, maybe a little closer than that. Like this is good enough for now. And the reason why I ask you to stand back half the time, is to get a better idea about your work. And so, even though I'm working here, I can just kind of smooth my eyes and I can see what's going on here. If I'm like this, I might do something and then I'm isolated from the rest of the picture, right? And so then I pull back and I realize, oh, that's not right in connection to this. Happens all the time if you're not careful. This is called feathering. I'm using a soft piece of vine charcoal, not extra. I'm not even using extra soft. I'm using soft. Either soft, medium, and hard. So here's our cylinder. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take a HB charcoal pencil and I'm going to draw over this. So I went over the vine charcoal image with a HB pencil. I think you can also get away with using a 2B charcoal pencil. And I just started to draw the ellipses, and when I needed to, I used my support stick or my cane, like this, and like that. Also, I decided to try and draw these lines freehand, and I used a stroke like that, a down stroke like that. And then I would recommend to check it off with a ruler. Now, some of you you might just want to use a ruler. Use a ruler. I try to tell people, try to do things like eyeball things, do things freehand if you can. It gets you more limber in this area. And so now let's remove the marks that we don't need anymore. I'm doing a diagonal stroke at this point. I can even come with a counter diagonal stroke. And then that's what we have. What I have now is some arrows indicating the direction of the main source of light. So you can see the idea is that the light is coming like this, all over like that. But there's one thing that you have to take in consideration. The ellipse, which is supplying a curve. And that curve is up against this imaginary line like that. That represents the contact of the light. And so what happens is, here and here is what's called the most direct hit. So the light is hitting this object in the more direct way possible, which would be at a 90-degree angle to the surface. And any other part of this thing that's being hit by these imaginary photon bullets, free-flying electrons, it's going to be at a greater angle. So what happens is it receives less light, and so therefore it gets a little bit darker. So we also take into consideration something that's going on back here. Now, this is reflected. So let's think about this. We are going to just kind of like draw a map of the territory. Somewhere here is going to be like where the reflected light is hitting. Back there. And then over here you have the direct source of light. Now the thing is, this is supposed to be the most direct hit. So that's going to be the highlight. It gets a little tricky here because it's not going to be light and then black. It's going to be a gradient. Remember the gradient from light to dark? And it gets darker like that, a gradient. Another thing you can do as a learner is practice doing this. So what you do is you go from dark to light. You can do that. Let's do another one. Let's practice another one of these things. Practice going from dark to light. I'm going to go like this. Here's dark. And then let's go a little bit lighter. You got to make it work. That's called a gradient or a gradation. Again, this technique is really good for the following. So all these things that I do don't mean a hill of beans, because I already reinforced the shape, the form with the charcoal pencil. And I use this to figure things out, being the vine charcoal. So, you know, and what's really cool is you can almost see a ghost of the previous ideas, layers of information here. You see that? This is the ghost of all that. And I might have wanted to have darkened the shadow. Now the shadow, again, how do you get the far end of the shadow? Or if you come over here like this, you can kind of anticipate the invisible side of the cylinder. Like what if you were making a glass, a transparent glass or a jar? Well, that's what it would look like. So then you could say, okay, the shadow has to be something like that. See how I did that? What I have here is a big chunk of charcoal. This is vine charcoal, but this is a huge, thick one. Now, I don't expect you to get this, but I figured since I had it, I might as well use it in front of you. So what I'm going to do is just sort of like create a game plan. Mapping out the territory. And the problem with this is it's really clumsy and clunky, but I thought it'd be fun to look at for you to get an idea of these materials that you might not have ever seen before. I'm going to make it like dark here and then it kind of goes light there. It's not the most beautiful thing right now, but again, I just thought it'd be nice to use vine charcoal to figure out how this thing will be illuminated. Practicing the gradation. Practice the gradation. Shadow went away from me, but I can still see it. So I'm going along the direction of the shape of the shadow. So I have a system here, kind of using. Now what I'm going to do is, there's something called cross contouring, and I'm going to show you what cross contouring is all about. First of all, we know that our highlight's going to be here and a reflected light, and then as we complete this, we'll see where the core of shadow is. Highlight here, and then kind of the gradient goes off to here. So somewhere here and here is where the core of shadow is. So let's play around with that. So this is what I mean by cross contour. I'm going to go like this along the shape of the object. Takes a little bit of getting used to though. See how I'm doing that? I put this on its side. Now watch this. I'm going to show you something else. Instead of curves, now I'm going to do a series of diagonal lines, which is still the same cross contour because I'm respecting the shape of the object. Big, chunky piece of fine charcoal. Oh my God, right? Do a little bit of hatching here. I hope I'm not in the way. I think you can see some of my shoulder. This demo won't take as long as the others, I don't think. I'm trying to be more economical with how I do these things. I do want you to see in real time what I'm doing, but I don't think you need to see every single little thing. Now I'm going along the height of this object. Before the width, now the height. Now, this here should not be that bright. So we could play around with it in two different ways. One way is just to go like this. Actually, I'm going to go like this. And then I'm going to go like this. And then I'm going to go like that. This is consisting of a series of planes. The top of this is a plane and the bottom of that is a plane. But then here there's like a plane that's been warped. And so now you have an infinite number of planes going around like that. Here we have our idea. I think what's going to happen next is I'm going to do some erasing. It's imperative that you follow along with the similar, if not the same, materials that I'm using for these demos. Like if you get graphite and you do this, it won't. You can do everything, but it's not gonna feel the same. Like I said with the sketching, and then you just wipe it away. You know, all that stuff comes with the materials that you use. So I highly recommend for my class to get the materials that I asked for, the charcoal. Let me go like that, and then. You know, something to be said about like trying to use a bigger material than you would actually use to get a better handling, get your skill. Instead of going for a 2-aught brush, use a size 2 brush, and then only when you have to, you go down to a smaller size brush. Same with the eraser or anything, or pencils or anything. Like, you know, you go from big to small. Don't go from small to big. So I was able to control enough of the eraser area as it contacts with the drawing area. And there we go. See that? And of course, you might need to do this. You got to support your efforts with your support stick, your mauler stick. And then here, I would say is a good thing to attack. Go there. Doing this in real time. Some things that you just have to see. I hope that my demos aren't too boring. I don't have a lot of flash in the pan type eye candy gizmos flying around while I'm drawing or anything else. Just me drawing away, chugging away, and hopefully you can get something out of it. And this is a little bit funky, but we'll work with that. So there's going to be a transition of value. Like here it's going to be lighter than the object, you see that? But then as it goes up here, this object gets lighter and the background gets darker. Very tricky, and that's why we do these things. If you wanted to be more of a stickler for detail, and we have to use it for the highlight anyways, you can come in here with your kneading eraser and see what I'm doing here. And then, it might be hard to do it, but I'm going to try to make a highlight here. Now if you hold your support stick like that, and it's completely going vertical, you can somehow take your hand like this and support your eraser and then kind of drag down like that. Well, it's a little bit crooked. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, there we go. See that? Got a straight line, more or less. Just trying to map out the territory. I might want to do something else here. With my other paintbrush. There we go. So here's the core of shadow right here. And the idea is you might even do a better job than this to kind of make this look more pretty. And of course I'm going to have to fix that. We'll do that right now. I can come over here with my charcoal pencil and I can show where I need it to go. Like that. So now what's going to happen is I have to reinforce this with compressed charcoal. First, what I'll do is I'll concentrate on the background using my really thick 6B, I think this is, charcoal. The blackest of the lot. See how the tape's coming up by accident, so you don't want to go up. You can go left, right. You can go down. Drew over the cylinder. We'll fix that later. Oh, sometimes I just can't handle a mistake and I have to fix it immediately. It's like, it drives me crazy. You're probably the same way. So I just come in here and I just fix it. Hope I'm not in the way. Almost looks like the eye, you know, the thing I'm cautious against. You know, the thing is, if you're aware of these mistakes, you'll be able to get them out of the drawing. like I'm aware. If I wasn't aware, I would just sort of like let it just go, and I'd, you know, not think about it. But you know, I know about that, and so I'm not gonna let that happen. So here we go. I hope I'm not in the way. Avoid, you know, I'll tell you right now in this demo, avoid what I did where I wound up drawing on top of the white area. You know, if you can, avoid what I just did. But it's good to see it in real time, you know, like what to do and what not to do. You can get like your smaller sticks of charcoal and do the following. I don't think I'm going to do the entire thing in real time with the background. I'm gonna finish this up in a minute without you watching, so we can get this show on the road. But I want you to see enough to have questions answered. See how I did that? And I'm using my compressed charcoal that's smaller. And this is again a soft charcoal, not medium. This is soft. I interchange medium, soft, and hard with HB, 2, 4B, and 5, 6B. So this is 5, 6B or soft. Sometimes I don't know if it's a 5 or a 6B, so I go 5/6B. Notice I'm going vertical and horizontal strokes, and then here I recommend doing your little diagonals. You go like this, and then you go like this, and you come in like that. You come in, little diagonals. So it's looking better. We'll fix this up. You'll see as we go. What I did was, after I charged this up with enough charcoal, I hit it with my blender, and I went with horizontal vertical strokes like that, and like this. We can come over here and do some more detail work. So I'm working with the background first. So I'm moving from the back and then up forward. You hear that a lot with people doing representation art. They'll say, well, if you have like a group portrait, people standing in front of something, you have them draw. The artist will like paint the background and finish up the background, and then he'll come in and do the people in the composition after. So it's called foreground versus background, figure versus field. So you work on the field and you finish up the field or the background, and it kind of surrounds and embraces the foreground, and then you come into the foreground and you finish it. It's a nice way to work. Not the exclusive way to work, but it's a nice way. So this would be the foreground, or the figure, and then this is the background, or the field. Little terminology for you. Any kind of problem where you need to support your hand, don't worry about it, just go and do it. You know, you have to just figure that out where you need it. Still not done with this over here, but we'll come back to it. Now I'm going to come over here and do the shadow. Try to use the whole side of this charcoal stick. It's a little bit smaller than the shadow. Why not? Why use the tip to do this? You know, it doesn't seem right. Remember the three sides of your charcoal. The flat side, the edge, or the corner, and the tip. The flat side, the corner between the two sides of a given side, and then the tip. Also, notice that when I actually start shading, I'm going for the darkest parts first. It's a good strategy. You really see the whole playing field in terms of your value range when you go for the darkest parts first. Like what I am doing right now. I'm going to make this like dark. Really being consistent with the cube and the cylinder and the sphere. This is the cylinder. So I'm using the side of the charcoal. Like that. I can go like this now, a little bit of that cross contouring. As I move like this, I gradually lift my charcoal. See that? Not easy to do. I'm going to come over here to this. You can come in here and get the pock marks, fill it in. Just go where you need to go. Like I need to go here, so I'm going to go there. Need to go here, so I'm going to go there. See that? Another thing you can try is your blender or your Q-tip swab. We could try the Q-tip swab. What will this do? It's kind of weird. It's kind of lifting. Well, this might be good for like feathering over here. See that? I'm not pressing that hard. So you have to really get a feel for what works. Another thing I can do is I can go left and right like this. Oh, that seems to work. See that? That kind of a thing. But let's continue with the contour, because that's important. I think I should show you that more. So I'm going to come over here with that. So that's what we're doing right now. If you want to rest your hand, get the stick. Really get in there, gang. Really know what you're doing. See that? Be patient. Your first cylinder might not come out good. You might have to try another one. You know, like, do what you have to in order to get a nice looking form. Like that. Eventually when I break out the pencils, I kind of like wondering about this though. This seems like here it's a little bit too dark. So look at this with my sock. Now I'm going to go up a little bit and then I'm going to go back down. See that? That seems to help it. And then I'm going to come over here again. Like that. And now this here, I don't want it to go down. So you have to really finagle it. Like now I'm going to come in here with my tortillon. I'm not going like that, I'm going up and down like this, see that? Like that. I can go like this across left and right. Even out the those little pock marks, those little white, those light areas. Core of shadow right here, and it's between the lit up area and the reflected light area. See that? It's sandwiched in between. I hope I'm not in the way. I'm going to kind of creep in the dark and then come into the light. See that, how I'm creeping that in like that? That's a very tricky little thing. I'm going to do that here too. I'm going to really get into this with you guys. This creates a sense of depth. Because this thing is creeping out of the darkness. You see how it hugs, it kind of licks around the edge of this thing like that. Because really, there's no flat edge on this side or this side. You know that it's a curve, right? And it slips into the background. You see that? So we have to really remember though that these forms are studied for that particular reason. See that? So let's continue this on. I hopefully have it set up to where you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to zoom in and then I'm going to show you like right here what the heck I'm doing. Because it's important. It's kind of a weird posture for me. I don't recommend you to bend down like I am. I'm just doing this just so you can see. See how it's kind of neat. See that? The line should go away. And I'm going to reinforce that some more with a pencil. See that? Like that. I might have to go back in there and fix that, but we'll see what we got. You can do some fixing up over here. I'll get my support stick here. Now you might not see that far edge. Oh, I hope that you did. Might be getting in the way. This is kind of a problem, but we'll get it. I'm using a 2B pencil right here. So you see how I went from big to small. Now I'm doing the detail. Make sure that this is not bouncing all over the place. Every time I do these demos, the drawing looks slightly different from a previous drawing from another semester. They're both quote unquote correct, but you know, the different ones are all correct, but they're all, again, kind of different. And you'll see that as you draw more than one of these forms. I encourage the learner to draw more than one cylinder, more than one cube, more than one sphere. And then we have to talk about application, like, okay, how does this apply to nature? We'll have to get into that. Right now we're just trying to draw these things. You really should be able to draw these things. It's demanding. When you're doing it, it's demanding. Because what in, you know, nature has smooth things like that. You know, it's so that's sure you can think of a raven's claw, you know, or an eye and all that, but you still have all sorts of variations. But this is like some mechanical thing, you know, and so it's hard. But if you do them, you'll take that with you when you actually draw more interesting natural things. Like, to explain this to you, I didn't make up this lesson. Like, I didn't come up with the idea, hey, I'm going to have my students draw cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres, just because it's been around since like the Renaissance, these kinds of ideas, and they've been tinkered with over the years, over the centuries. There's almost a science to good art, you know, good drawing. It's the other science, you know. We're getting there. Sometimes it's good to be freehand like this, no support of any kind. Just try to, you know, get in there like this. And how about the reflected light? Oh yeah, we were gonna do that here. Let's tinker with the blender like I did before, right? Because of this dark area. Let's see what this gives us. This is a tortillon. See how I'm doing this? Not going like that from left to right. I'm going from right to left. I'm going from outside to in. I'm gonna skip over that white area. I'll come back in there with a pencil. You'll see what I mean. See that? It hugs it around. Like, you should have a thing where it's kind of faded over here. It's like a gradient over here. You see that? It's not a hard, clean line. Softening the edges. That's so important. And there are many times when I didn't tell people about that. You know, we're drawing away and I kind of kept it to myself. It's like, why'd you do that? So I'm telling you now. Just like that. Now with the pencil, you can come in here with the other part. Because that's supposed to be darker than that little sliver of light. See that right here? Watch out how you're holding the pencil. It's tricky. Posturing is so important. If you're standing and you're awkward, you're leaning over or you're leaning in, and if you're fighting your balance, find a good center of balance where you can just kind of stand and and then approach your work. Don't be off balance. Bend the legs. If you have to go down, instead of bending your back and hurting your lumbar region, bend your legs like what I'm doing now and do this. I don't know if you can see my whole posture, but listen to what I say. Bend your legs at the knee. Don't bend your back. The rest is just like fine-tuning now. We're going to do that. Still not done with some of those pock marks in there. Although you could argue the point and say, yeah, but I like the texture. Like there is a bumpy kind of texture to that cylinder. You might have a point there. I'm not in the way. Stand back, look at your work. Thing about shadows is, like, one of the rule of thumbs about shadows is, like, it might be sharper where the object and the floor is meeting, but then as you fan out, as you move outward, as you journey out, you could experience something like this, where it gets a little bit more blurry and fuzzy, like that. See how I did that? And you can emphasize that, like right here, I can emphasize that for this right here. Like that. You see how that works? Now I want you to tell me if I'm in your way. You're in my way. Move your head. Excuse me, sir. Can you remove your 10-gallon hat? I can't see the picture show. So you see how we're doing that? With the eraser, you can peck over here. Remember how we talked about before in another demonstration? See how I peck right here like that? Do that. You can get a little texture there. And then, you notice I don't really use my finger. If I did, you know, you can get away with this. I'll show you right now. You can go like this. Be really careful with that, though. Don't be so dependent on what I just did with my finger. But I'm telling you right now, it works like a charm. Like, look at this. If I go like this, see that? It works like a charm. I will not lie to my students. I sometimes will do this when you're not looking. But I recommend you don't do for the whole thing. You really should get your tools out like this blender and go like this and really, you know, work it. The contrast is that this is more of a hard edge. These are soft. So I go up and down, left and right, and around. Up and down, and then around. See that? Left and right, across. Like that, see that? Up and down, up and down, up and down. A lot of the things that I show you in this class is more or less universal. Like if you Google like the stuff that I'm doing, you'll see like a whole bunch of hits. And that should give you a security that, oh, okay, he's actually showing me something that matters because other people are talking about it. You know, so I'm not really gonna hit you with obscure stuff. I could if I want, but I don't think you'd want that. At this point, I can kind of play with some details, like oh, I kind of like this on this floor. Like, I could play with this. See that? And I can say, yeah, I see something there. I won't get too obsessed with this. I'm gonna try to, push this along. See that? It's kind of a little granular texture, like it's on the ground or something. Just some cool little thing, like little particulates casting a shadow over there. If you feel inclined to do that, go for it. Like I can even go like this, and I'm gonna even draw a crack. Check it out. See that? Little sound effects. See that? It's kind of fun, right? Have fun with this. I'm not going to sign it yet. We're not really done yet. I might even get into here, like, put like a little crack indentation here. See that? Oh, wow, got a crack, man. The master cylinder is cracked. The master cylinder! Remember that character? I think it's from Felix the Cat. Felix! Give me the magic bag! Radio, Professor! So, doing some Felix the Cat impersonations. And you get bored and you start just entertaining yourself. Why not? Have some fun. Okay, so we go like this. You see how this is working, right? So let's do some more cleanup, and I'll show you the end results. So here is like the effects with the dust or dirt over here, and then the crack on the cylinder. I'm going to do a zoom up. Well, I think that I'm going to show you a little bit about using the white charcoal. I'm very conservative about using the white charcoal. I come into it at the end. This support, the stick support, allows me to really make some controlled lines like this. I don't know if I'd be able to do that without it. I can come in over here like this. Emphasizing the curvature. It's a little bit off though. You have to make sure it's going along the same direction as the ellipse up here. I can tell mine's a little bit off, but I can, no bother. I can just go and draw right on top of it like that and kind of fix it. And then come back over here like this and fix it like that. Remember, you're the judge. You can come in here and and work on it and work it and get it to where you want it. And my job is to show you what you're looking for, like how to make this look like a solid. This is one of the solids, one of the platonic solids. And that's what we are drawing today. I could get my bigger charcoal. I can come over here. Let's say that I don't want to erase it. I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to fix it up with this charcoal. Now the thing is, be careful with what I just did. If you can, erase out a tone. Erase the value out. Erase the mark out if you can. And then you come over here with this. I kind of want this to be highlighted like there's a lip. See that? I'm really going to come in here and give you that little benefit of the doubt. And I'm even going to do some stuff where there's like some weird kind of a crack kind of a thing coming in like this. See that? The details are really important, gang. You want to have fun with the details. I hope that as we get into the more juicy subjects, I will really spend time on some details for you. I'm actually making some really weird kind of shapes in here. Almost like a little shrimp or, some kind of a squiggly paisley. It just, I don't know, it just kind of looks neat. I can come over here and just play around with this. These kinds of nonchalant little whimsical details only work when you get the solid form in. If you just have whimsical detail without the solid form, you don't really have anything. So we have that. And like, you could differentiate. You could say, well, like this is a ground, and this is an object, and this is made of one material, and this is made of a different material. So one way of showing that is through value and texture. So I'm going to come in with value and texture. So I'm going to come over here like this, kind of like work this in like that. It just kind of shows that, this is not a white ground. There's something going on. See that? There's some texture going on. Something happening here. This like weird kind of a passage or shape. See that? That's like coming at you like this, and so I can maybe get a lighter over here, and like lighter over here, and just kind of curves in like that. It's good to know what you're drawing, like what is that supposed to be. But sometimes I don't know and I just kind of go with it. But I'm just trying to give you the honest viewpoint. And I just made like an interesting little shape here. It's kind of neat. I'm kind of running off on a tangent. I gotta watch out. So we'll clean it up here, and then we'll be done. Let's gotta clean up this edge over here. And this over there, it needs to be repaired just a little bit. This ellipse is a little bit different over there. So you see how that's coming, right? And some real-time action here, instead of me turning it off, the camera off, and then turning it back on. I know I do that, so I'm going to try to compensate and finish this up in front of you. And make no mistake, if I don't really focus on what I'm doing, I'll make an ugly drawing, even though I've done these cylinders before. It's you got to be on top of it. I'm almost thinking that this core of shadow is too big. Like, you might want to deal with that. So I might want to actually come in here and reinforce some kind of thing I'm going to fix. Like, look what I do with my sock. See, I'm just not afraid. See that? That looks a lot better. See that? That's more like it. Then I can come back over here and then tease it back in. See that? So, you know, the thing is, I'm trying to be honest with my work. And you should do. You should be honest with your work too. And this is a, you know, kind of a hard little demo here. I'm kind of sweating it. I want to make it look right for my class, and I'm like, you know. And you think like, well, you've been drawing for all this time, and you still have a problem drawing cylinders. Well, at least I'm honest about it. And you know, make no mistake, like you don't see this stuff in nature all the time. So you're drawing. You get a book on how to draw animals and stuff. They might not tell you to draw all these things at first. So you know, they go right into the animal anatomy and all that stuff, and the text, the fur, you know. And it's like something's missing, and it's like, well, what's the foundation? Well, I'm giving you the foundation. Before you draw anything in particular, you do the foundational studies, and then you can apply it to like whatever it is that you want to draw when you get in there. And so you have so much more control of, you know, drawing wildlife or whatever, because you've already done these foundational things. This kind of neat little triangle, crack of a triangle. It's a crack of a triangle. See that right there? I hope you can see this. If not, I'll make sure that you can see it. See that? Kind of a neat little thing there. You can sign it. I'm going to put my name over here. S-L and then 2-0. You know, you can go like 2-0, and then you go like this and 2-0. There it is. It's a nice way to sign it. First name initial, last name initial, and then four numbers for the year. How will you sign your drawing? Okay, this is going to be it for this particular demonstration. Take a look at this. If you notice, I had changed something. What I changed was the shadow. Before, the shadow was casted like so, going up like so at an angle. And I realized that it was not working. And this is something that is good for all of us, instructors, students alike. It's good to sometimes you do something and then you have to put it away for an hour, then come back and take a look at it. That's what I did. I was having to do something else, and then when I came back after I had finished filming, I realized, oh, it doesn't feel right. Also, I would also mention that this core of shadow is probably too big. It should probably start around here, a little bit more to the right, and then push it a little bit further to the right. And just things that you could play around with. Notice how this shadow is a little bit more concentrated here, but then over here it's more blended back into the atmosphere. And so there's more of a diffusion there than here. It's a little bit more sharp. And that also helps create a sense of dimension. So there it is. You know, sometimes you have to go back and rework something.